The High Command meeting hall was a huge room of black glass and silver walls. Long banners of the Empire hung from the ceiling. Every important officer in the fleet sat around a wide circular table. Their faces were serious, their eyes fixed. On the large screen in the center, Captain Zevral stood before them. His uniform was stained with smoke. His voice was hoarse from hours of reports. And that is what happened, he finished quietly. He killed the test subject without touching him. For a moment, nobody spoke. Only the soft hum of the air vents broke the silence. At the far end of the table, High Commander Lien leaned forward. His silver eyes studied Zevral like knives. "You expect us to believe this?" he asked in a cold voice. Zevral lifted his chin. "Yes, Commander. I saw it with my own eyes. So did 20 witnesses." Another officer, Admiral Brecken, shook his head. "The ancient stories were always exaggerated. The humans are dangerous, yes, but this is magic." Stepped forward. His blue skin looked even paler under the lights. He held the melted remains of the recording device in both hands. "This is not magic," he said softly. "This is a power we never understood." He set the ruined device on the table. "This machine was built to survive plasma fire, yet it failed in seconds." High Commander Lorien's face remained hard. "What do you suggest? That we surrender?" Sularis said firmly. "But you must see the truth." He pressed a button on a small pad. A hologram rose above the table, showing the human sitting calmly in the silent chamber. "For days, he has not moved," Sularis said. "He does not eat, he does not sleep. And yet, he is alive. This is not normal biology." Admiral Brecken crossed his arms. "Then what is he?" Sularis looked around the table. "I believe he is an evolved weapon, a mind trained for killing." A ripple of unease passed over the council. Captain Zevral spoke again, his voice low. "You must understand, he warned us before he killed. He could have destroyed all of us. But he did not." High Commander Lorien frowned. "Perhaps he is waiting for something." Sularis nodded. "That is my fear. He is not just surviving, he is studying us." An officer in golden robes shifted nervously. "What if he is preparing an attack? What if he can reach beyond that room?" Zevral felt cold sweat on his neck. He had thought the same question many times in the dark hours of the night. High Commander Lorien tapped the table. "Then we must decide. Do we kill him now? Or do we learn everything first?" Sularis hesitated. "If we try to kill him and fail, he will know our intentions. And if we wait?" Brecken asked. "Then perhaps we will understand his purpose," Sularis replied. "Knowledge may be our only weapon." The High Commander turned to Zevral. "You have spent the most time near this creature. What is your judgment?" Zevral met Lurien's eyes. "I believe he does not want to kill without reason. We push him, he will destroy us." The table grew quiet again. The officers exchanged worried looks. Finally, Lien spoke in a slow, measured voice. "Then we will not act in haste." He turned to Admiral Brecken. "Double the guard. Lockdown. Every entry point to the chamber. No one enters without my order." Brecken nodded. "Yes, Commander." Lorien faced Sularis. "You will lead a team to study him. But you will not provoke him again. No more probes. No more tests." Sularis bowed. "Understood." Captain Zevral felt a small relief. At least for now, there would be no more deaths. But as he looked at the hologram, the human sitting alone, closed, he felt something he could not name: respect and fear. The High Commander stood. "Remember this. If he escapes, there will be no safe place in this galaxy. We must be ready." Every officer rose. They touched their hands to their hearts in salute. Zevral turned and walked out of the hall. His steps were heavy. The cold metal corridors seemed darker than before. He passed soldiers whispering to each other. He heard fear in every voice. He did not blame them. When he reached the observation deck, he stopped to look out the window. The stars shone bright and silent. Somewhere in that black sea, the old stories had been born. Stories of humans who could end worlds, and now. One of those stories was alive in a small steel chamber, waiting, watching, thinking. CVRI knew the truth. Even if the others did not want to see it, they were no longer the hunters, they were the prey captain. Zevral stood outside the silent chamber once again. He had not planned to return so soon, but his thoughts would not let him rest. Every report, every whisper in the halls came back to the same question. What does he want? But a guard stood on each side of the door. Their faces were pale, their hands tight on their weapons. Zevral took a slow breath. Open it, he ordered. The door slid back with a soft hiss. Cold air flowed out. Inside, the human still sat in the chair, hands folded. His eyes were closed. Zevral stepped in alone. The door sealed behind him. He waited a moment, watching. No movement, no sound. Finally he spoke. I am Captain Zevral. I wish to talk. Slowly the human opened his eyes. Dark, calm, endless. Zevral felt that strange fear again. But he kept his voice steady. Do you understand me? Yes, the human said softly. His voice was smooth and without emotion. Made the small room feel colder? Zevral swallowed. You have killed without touching. You have survived without food or sleep. What are you? The human tilted his head. I am what you made. Zevral frowned. You keep saying that. Explain. The human studied him for a long moment. You call me a prisoner. But long ago, your kind called us something else. Zevral's heart thumped faster. What did we call you? The human's gaze did not waver. Enemy. Soft hum filled the air, as if the walls themselves were listening. Zevral took a slow step closer. Those were ancient wars. Not the same empire. The human's eyes narrowed. You built your new empire on the bones of the old. You learned nothing. Zevral felt anger rise in his chest. We did not start those wars. The human did not look away. Yet here I am, caged, tested, watched. The captain opened his hands. We do not understand you. That is why we study. Human's lips curved into the smallest smile.
Ow.
But there was no kindness in it, only sadness. You fear what you do not understand, he said. Zevral did not deny it. He took another step forward. Now, only a few meters separated them. Tell me, he said quietly, why did you spare me when you killed the others? The human was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, voice low, because you still listen. Zevral felt a chill move through his body. You killed the guards, he said. You killed the prisoner. Yes, the human said. No regret in his voice. They came with violence in their hearts. Zevral's throat felt tight. And if I came with violence? The human tilted his head again. You would already be dead. The captain did not answer. He could think of nothing to say. For a long time, they simply looked at each other. Finally, Zevral asked, If we let you go, what will you do? The human closed his eyes. It depends on what you do. Zevral felt as if he were speaking to a storm, something too big to control. He turned to leave. Then he paused. One last question, he said without turning around. Yes? Do you feel any remorse for the lives you took? The human's answer came at once. No. Zevral closed his eyes. He had known this would be the answer, but hearing it made something inside him feel empty. He walked to the door. His hand hovered over the control pad. Behind him, the human spoke again, voice softer now. Captain. Zevral turned, surprised. You are afraid, the human said. That is wise. But do not hate me for what I am. Zevral felt a strange sadness in his chest. Then what should I feel? The human looked up, and for the first time Zevral thought he saw something like weariness in those dark eyes. Pity, the human said. The door slid open. Zevral stepped out without another word. The guards looked at him with wide eyes. But he said nothing. He walked down the corridor, his thoughts heavy. For the first time, he began to wonder if they were the villains in this story, and deep inside, knew. If they did not find a way to understand this creature, no wall or weapon would save them. The alien soldiers stood in a wide, dark chamber. Their long weapons pointed at the silent figure in the middle of the room. This chamber was deep inside their command ship, a place where no prisoner had ever escaped. But this time they were. Not sure if it was safe, the human sat on a metal chair. His arms rested on the cold surface of the table. His head was bowed. He did not move, did not even seem to breathe. Captain Zevral, commander of the security forces, walked slowly around the chair. His green skin looked pale under the dim lights. His 3 black eyes studied the prisoner with fear and curiosity. "He killed 50 soldiers," the captain said softly. His voice trembled, but no one saw him do it. His second in command, a tall alien named Orisk, shook his head. "Is not possible," Orisk replied. "Our cameras saw nothing. He never left this chair." "That is why it is worse," the captain whispered. The other soldiers shifted nervously. Their boots tapped against the metal floor. They did not like being in this room. Even their weapons felt useless. The human lifted his head a little. His eyes opened. They were dark, so dark they looked like holes. "Holes without a bottom, Captain." Zevral froze. He felt as if the human was looking through his skin, into his heart. He tried to look brave, but he knew the human saw his fear. "State your name," Zevral ordered. The human said nothing. He only stared. Orisk swallowed. He took out a small data pad. "This is the record," he said. At 0300 hours, the human was brought into this chamber. 10 guards stood watch. 40 more were stationed outside. No one entered. No one left. But at 0400 hours, every guard was dead. No wounds, no sign of poison. Captain Zevral nodded, and the cameras recorded nothing. The human sat still the entire time. The human blinked once slowly. Orisk's voice dropped to a whisper. "How did he do it?" The captain stepped closer. He tried to keep his voice firm. "You will answer us," he said to the human, "or we will force your mind open." Again the human said nothing. He did not look. Afraid, he looked empty like a shell with nothing inside. Suddenly, a young soldier named Peros lost his nerve. He took a step back. His hand shook so hard that his weapon nearly fell. Captain Zevral turned and hissed, "Hold your position." Peros tried to obey, but he could not stop staring at the human's eyes. Something inside those dark eyes made his body feel cold, as if all the warmth had drained out. Then, to everyone's shock, the human spoke. His voice was quiet, flat, without any feeling. "You should leave this room," he said. "All of you." For a moment, no one moved. The words hung in the air like a warning. Captain Zevral felt anger rise in his chest. "Do not take orders." "From you?" he snapped. The human closed his eyes again, did not reply. The silence grew heavy. It felt like a thick fog pressing on their chests. The soldiers looked at each other. Even Orisk, who never showed fear, felt sweat on his neck. Peros took another step back. His voice shook. "Captain, maybe we should." "Enough," Zevral said sharply. "Prepare the mind probe." Orisk's hand trembled as he keyed the command into his pad. Side door opened with a hiss. 2 technicians rolled in a tall machine covered in blinking lights and wires. The human did not react. He did not look at the machine. He sat as still. As a statue, Captain Zevral forced himself to stand straight. He wanted to believe they were in control. But inside he felt something cold and hollow. He remembered the old legends. Stories told by elders about the ancient human wars. Stories of humans who could kill with only a thought. But those were just myths, he told himself. Stories to scare children. He looked again into the human's empty eyes and for the first time in his life, he wondered if the old stories were true. The technicians stopped the machine beside the prisoner. One of them attached a thin metal band to the human's head. Tiny red lights flickered to life. Peros swallowed hard. "Captain." "Dada." "If he kills again?" Captain Zevral did not answer. He could not. He only watched as the machine powered up, filling the chamber with a low humming sound. And in that moment, every soldier in the room felt the same silent thought. We should not be here. But it was too late to run. The machines grew louder. Red lights flashed across the metal walls of the chamber. The soldiers stood in a wide circle around the human. Their weapons stayed pointed at his still body. Captain Zevral felt sweat slide down his neck. He did not dare to wipe it away. He watched the thin metal band that touched the human's head. That band was connected to the probe device designed to read thoughts. No mind had ever resisted it. Orisk leaned closer to his commander. His voice was low. "Captain, Key can kill without moving. What if the probe only makes him angry?" Zevral did not answer right away. His eyes never left the prisoner. The human sat with the same empty look, his hands resting on the table. He had not moved since he spoke those quiet words. "You should leave this room." But nobody had listened. The technician checked the machine's screen. His fingers trembled as he adjusted the controls. "Power is at full," he said nervously. "Signal is ready." Captain Zevral took a deep breath. "Begin." The technician pressed a blue button. A thin wave of energy passed from the band into the human's brain. The machine began to record. Soft pulse filled the air like a distant heartbeat. At first, nothing happened. The human did not flinch. He did not blink. Orisk stared at the screen. Lines of strange symbols moved across it. They were supposed to show memories, emotions, and secrets, but the symbols did not make sense. They were twisted, broken, like shattered glass. "This is not normal," the technician whispered. "His mind does not have clear patterns." Captain Zevral leaned closer. "What does it mean?" "It means he is thinking something we cannot understand," the technician said. His voice was weak, or he is not thinking at all. The pulse grew louder. The lights on the machine turned from red to deep orange. The technician frowned and touched another control. Then the human's eyes opened. The soldiers stiffened. Weapons clicked as fingers tightened on triggers. The human did not look at any of them. He stared at the metal wall in front of him. Slowly, very slowly, he spoke. "You should have left." Captain Zevral felt a chill in his bones. He opened his mouth to order the probe to stop, but before he could speak, the machine screamed. The lights flashed bright red. Sparks burst from the cables. The technician fell backward with a cry. Smoke rose into the air, thick and black. "Shut it down," Orisk shouted. The second technician tried to pull the power cable, but the machine did not stop. The red lights grew brighter, almost white. The walls shook as a deep, angry hum filled the chamber. The human still did not move. Captain Zevral stepped back. His heart pounded in his chest. The metal floor vibrated under his boots. "Emergency shutdown," Orisk yelled, but it was too late. The machine's top split open. Liquid metal poured out in bright streams. Sparks fell like burning rain. A high-pitched scream filled the air, so sharp that the soldiers covered their ears. And then silence. All the lights went out. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Smoke drifted in slow clouds. The machine was a melted ruin. Technicians crawled. Away from it, coughing, Captain Zevral swallowed hard. He turned his eyes to the human. He was still sitting calmly. His face was empty. He did not look tired or hurt. One soldier, Peros, spoke in a small, shaking voice. He destroyed it, just by thinking." Nobody argued. The fear in the chamber grew thicker, like invisible hands pressing on every throat. Orisk wiped sweat from his forehead. He looked at the captain. "What do we do now?" Captain Zevral felt his mouth go dry. He had trained for war. He had seen many enemies, but never one like this. We cannot risk another probe," Zevral said. His voice was hoarse. "We must call the high command." He tapped his wrist device. A blue screen flickered to life. He tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. The human finally looked at him. Those dark eyes locked on Zevral's face. No anger, no sadness, just a cold, empty stare. "You wanted to know my mind," the human said. "Now you do?" Captain Zevral's hands shook as he lowered his wrist device. "What are you?" he whispered. The human did not answer. He closed his eyes again. Around the room, every soldier felt the same cold thought. "We cannot control this. Captain Zevral knew this was only the beginning, and for the first time, he wondered if they would all live to see the end. The silent chamber was darker than usual. Only a single light glowed over the human's chair. He sat with his eyes closed, unmoving as always, but outside the corridors were alive with noise. Sirens wailed. Red lights flashed along the walls. Soldiers ran past, weapons ready. Captain Zevral stood at a control station, shouting into his wrist device, "Seal every level. I want all doors locked." Admiral Brecken's voice crackled back. "He's still in the chamber. He hasn't moved." Asfro turned to the technician beside him. "Check again." "The sensors are failing." The technician's fingers danced across the screen. His face went pale. "Sir, the cameras are down. The locks are unresponsive." Zevral felt the cold fear settle in his bones. He knew this moment would come. A guard ran up, breathing hard. "Captain, communication is failing on all channels." Zevral clenched his jaw. "He is doing this. He warned us." The guard swallowed. "Orders, sir." Zevral looked down the long hall that led to the silent chamber. The door stood closed, a thin line of light showing around its edges. "Get every soldier here," he ordered. "We must be ready." The guard ran off. Zevral pressed a button on the wall panel. For a moment, the speaker crackled. Then the human's voice came through, soft and calm. "You think you can keep me here?" Zevral forced his voice to be steady. "This station is armed with every defense we have." "You still do not understand," the human said. "The lights?" Along the corridor flickered. The air grew heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Zevral heard footsteps behind him. Sularis appeared, his face white with fear. "He's not breaking the doors," Sularis whispered. "He's changing them." Zevral frowned. "What does that mean?" Sularis showed him a small scanner. The screen glowed with strange symbols. "The metal itself is shifting," Sularis said. "It's like he's turning our technology against us." Zevral felt a chill. "We have to stop him." Sularis looked up, eyes wide. "How?" Before Zevral could answer, the silent chamber door began to melt. A thin line of silver dripped. To the floor, the metal hissed and steamed. Zevral stepped back. "Guns, ready," he shouted. Soldiers raised their weapons. Forming a wall between the door and the rest of the station, the door sagged, folding in on itself like hot wax. A moment later, it collapsed to the floor with a heavy thud, and the human stepped out. He did not look angry, did not look proud. He looked tired. His dark eyes moved over the rows of soldiers. Zevral raised his hand. "Stop!" he ordered. The human paused. "You don't have to do this," Zevral said. His voice was firm but quiet. The human studied him. "You built this cage," he said. "You filled it with fear." The soldier's hands were shaking so badly that his gun clattered against his armor. "I gave you chances," the human continued. "But you chose not to listen." Solaris stepped forward. "Please, if you leave, we will not follow." The human turned his eyes to Solaris. "You will always follow." Zevral felt his heart pound. He knew the human was right. Even if he walked away now, the High Command would hunt him. Slowly, the human raised his hand. Every soldier flinched, fingers tightened on triggers, but he did not attack. Instead, the metal of the collapsed door lifted from the floor. It rose in the air, bending into a smooth shield that hovered behind him. Zevral understood he was not preparing to kill. He was preparing to defend. The human took a single step forward. A soldier panicked. He fired. A bright bolt of plasma shot toward the human's chest, but the shield moved faster. It snapped in front of him, the bolt hitting with a flash of light. The energy sank into the metal and disappeared. More soldiers began to fire. Plasma and bullets filled the corridor with thunder and smoke. Zevral shouted, "Cease fire! Stop shooting!" But it was too late. The human's eyes glowed bright silver. The shield expanded in a wave. It hit the soldiers like a silent storm, throwing them to the ground. Guns bent and cracked. Lights shattered, and then as suddenly as it began, the wave stopped. Zevral pushed himself up from the floor. The air was hot and thick with smoke. He looked around. No one was dead, only stunned, weapons useless. The human stood in the center of the ruined hall, watching him. "I will not kill you," he said. His voice was soft, almost sad. Then he turned and walked past the fallen soldiers. Zivril did not try to stop him. He knew no wall could hold him. Now the legend was free again. The alarms had stopped. The red lights were gone. Now there was only silence. Captain Zivril stood in the wrecked corridor, watching the human disappear into the shadows. All around him, soldiers slowly got to their feet. No one spoke. Solaris coughed in the smoky air. "He is going to the docks," he said quietly. Zivril nodded yes. Admiral Brecken's voice came from Zevril's wrist device, crackling with fear. "Captain, he has broken through every level. He will steal a ship." Zivril pressed the button. "Do not attack him again." "Cut." Greeken's voice shook. "But that is an order," Zivril said firmly. He lowered his arm and turned to Solaris. "We'll go after him," he said. Solaris looked worried. "To stop him?" "No," Zivril said. "To witness." They moved through the corridors together. Everywhere they passed, doors hung open and lights flickered. The entire station felt abandoned, as if the human's escape had stolen its spirit. When they reached the docking bay, the huge doors were already half open. Cold air rushed in from space. The human stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by small ships and cargo crates. He was looking up at the stars through the open bay. Zivril took a slow step forward. "You could have killed us all," he said quietly. The human did not turn around. "Yes, why didn't you?" The human lifted his head a little. "'Cause killing you would change nothing." Zivril felt his throat tighten. "Then what do you want?" Finally, the human turned. His dark eyes met Zevril's. "Freedom," he said simply. Solaris spoke in a cautious voice. "If you leave now, they will send fleets after you." The human gave a small nod. "I know. You will destroy them?" Solaris asked. "I will defend myself," the human said. "As I did here." Zivril took a deep breath. "If you must go, let me ask you one last thing." The human waited. "Are there more of you?" Zivril asked. "More hidden humans?" The human looked back. "At the stars?" For a moment, he seemed almost peaceful. "There were," he said softly. Once Solaris tilted his head, and now. The human closed his eyes. "I am the last." Zivril felt something break inside him. Sadness he could not name. "You could stay," he said, though he knew it was hopeless. "We could learn from you." The human opened his eyes again. "You do not learn," he said, voice gentle. "You conquer, you fear, you destroy." He turned toward the largest ship in the bay, long silver vessel built for speed. Zivril did not try to stop him. "Will we meet again?" he asked quietly. The human paused at the ship's ramp. "If you survive what comes," he said, "perhaps." Stepped into the ship. Lahurs looked at Zevriel. "He will not stop." Zevriel shook his head. "Neither will we." A deep rumble filled the docking bay as the engines came alive. Blue light glowed along the ship's sides. Zivril and Solaris stepped back as the vessel lifted off the floor. For one brief moment, the human stood in the doorway, looking down at them. Zvri raised his hand in a silent salute. The human did not move, but somehow Zivril felt the gesture was returned. Then the door closed, and the ship turned toward the stars. With a roar, it shot forward, out into the endless night. The wind from its departure blew through the bay, carrying the smell of burning metal and something older, something like history itself. Solaris let out a slow breath. "What now?" Zivril stared at the empty space where the ship had vanished. "Now," he said, "we tell the truth." Solaris looked tired. "And if they don't believe us?" Zivril finally turned away. "They will believe soon enough."
What?
He walked back through the ruined station. He felt no hate toward the human, only respect, and a quiet hope that maybe one day their kind would be more than conquerors above them. The stars waited, silent, watching, and somewhere among them, the last human moved alone, free at last. Captain Zevral stood outside the silent chamber. The heavy metal door was locked tight behind him. He could still feel the human's dark eyes in his mind. He pressed a button on the wall. The intercom crackled. "Orisk," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Keep 2 guards inside. If he moves, report at once." "Yes, Captain," Orisk answered. But Zevral could hear the fear in his voice. The captain turned away. He walked down the long steel corridor, past rows of blinking lights and display panels. His boots felt heavier with every step. He reached the control center, a wide room full of officers and scientists. The air smelled of chemicals and cold metal. As he entered, the chatter stopped. Every eye turned to him. He looked at the lead scientist, an old alien with blue skin and deep lines on his face. His name was Solaris. He had studied human history more than anyone alive. "Report," Captain Zevral ordered. Solaris folded his thin hands together. "I have reviewed all data from the probe," he said. His voice was slow and careful. "I believe I know what happened." Zevral raised an eyebrow. "Explain." The scientist nodded to an assistant who touched a screen. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. A large hologram appeared in the air. It showed the human's brainwaves, strange twisted lines that looked like a storm. "His mind," Solaris said, "does not work like ours. It does not work like any known species." He pointed to the largest wave. "This signal," he continued, "is the strongest I have ever recorded. It is not just thought. It is force." "Force?" an officer asked. "Yes," Solaris said, quietly. "A kind of energy. Some call it telepathy. Some call it psychic power. But I believe it is something older and more dangerous. Something from the ancient wars." Captain Zevral frowned. "Those are just myths." Solaris turned his tired eyes to him. "Myths are often born from truth." The room grew still. Nobody wanted to think about the old stories long ago before. Most species even traveled the stars. Humans were already feared. Legends said they could kill with a thought, crush ships with their will. But those stories had always sounded impossible now. Standing in this cold metal room, nobody was sure anymore. An officer with green scales cleared his throat. "If he has this power, why does he not use it all the time? Why did he warn us? To leave?" Solaris tilted his head. "Perhaps he does not wish to kill without reason. Or perhaps it takes effort. But we cannot guess his purpose." Captain Zevral felt a deep unease. "Then we must find out." Another officer, young and nervous, raised her hand. "Should we? Destroy him?" The question hung in the air like poison.zvril, thought of the melted machine. The dead guards. The cold, calm eyes of the prisoner. "Destroy him," Solaris repeated. "How? You saw what happened. He did nothing, yet our best probe died. Our weapons may do the same." Long silence followed. The crew looked at each other, their faces pale. Finally, Solaris spoke again. "There is one way to learn more. We must test the theory." Zevral turned to him. "What test?" "We need to see if he can do it again," Solaris said. His voice was heavy. "And if he can choose not to." Zevral felt his stomach tighten. "You mean bring someone into the chamber?" "Yes," Solaris said. "A living subject. If he kills again, we will record every detail. If he does nothing, perhaps we can speak to him." The captain looked at the officers around him. No one looked eager to volunteer. Solaris continued, "We could use a condemned criminal. It is not pleasant, but we need proof." Zevral rubbed a hand over his face. He hated this idea. But he could see no other path. "Very well," he said. His voice was dull. "Find a prisoner from the lower cells. Someone with a death sentence." An officer bowed and hurried out. The captain turned back to the screen. The twisted brainwaves still pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat in the dark. "He sat there," Zevral whispered. "He sat there without moving. And all our men died." Solaris nodded. "Now you see why the old stories survived so long." Hands curled into fists. He hated feeling helpless, hated the cold fear in his chest. "We must understand him," he said, "or he will be the end of us all." The scientists did not disagree. They stood there watching the hologram. The human's mind was like a storm behind glass, calm on the surface, full of hidden lightning, and deep down, every officer knew the truth. This was not just a prisoner. This was something their species was never meant to meet. The metal door of the silent chamber slid open with a hiss. Cold air moved across the floor. Touching the boots of the guards standing on each side, a group of soldiers came in, pushing a prisoner between them. He was thin, with torn clothes and a metal collar. Around his neck, his eyes were wide with terror. Captain Zevral followed, his face hard. Behind him walked Solaris, holding a small recording device. The human still sat in the chair. He did not look up. His hands were folded calmly on the table. The prisoner began to struggle. No, please, don't leave me here, one guard shoved him forward. Quiet. Captain Zevral raised a hand. Let him speak, he said. The prisoner fell to his knees. He looked at the human, then back at the captain. Tears ran down his dirty face. I don't want to die, he whispered. Solaris did not look away. He was studying the human's face, searching for any reaction. You are here, Zevral said slowly, because you killed 3 children on Clyro Station. Your life was already over. The prisoner sobbed. Not like this. Please, Solaris. Turn to the captain. We must see what happens, he said quietly. The guards backed away. One by one, they stepped outside the door, until only Zevral, Solaris, 2 guards remained. The captain nodded to the recording device. Begin. Solaris pressed a button. Soft blue light shone from the device. For a moment, nothing moved. The prisoner crawled back until his shoulders hit the wall. His eyes never left the human. Finally, the human lifted his head. The prisoner screamed. He pressed himself harder against the wall, as if he could melt through it. You don't have to do this, he begged. The human did not speak. His dark eyes studied the trembling man. Captain Zevral felt the cold return to his chest. He remembered the melted machine, the dead guards. He took a step forward. Speak, he ordered the human. Tell us what you are. Slowly, the human turned his head to look at Zevral. His face was still calm, empty of emotion. I am what you made, he said quietly. The words made the room feel smaller. The prisoner began to sob louder. SULAR is held the recording device higher. What does that mean? He asked. The human's eyes returned to the prisoner. You wanted to see, he said. So now you will see. Captain Zevral's heart began to pound. He opened his mouth to call the guards, but then he felt it. A pressure in the air, like the chamber was shrinking around them. The lights flickered. The metal walls groaned. The prisoner's scream rose in pitch. He clutched his head with both hands. Make it stop. Solaris stared at the screen on his device. The lines of data twisted into unreadable shapes, Captain, he gasped. It's happening again. Zevral raised his wrist device to call for help. His voice broke. Guards, get him. The prisoner fell silent. His body went limp. Eyes stared into nothing. A soft crack echoed in the chamber, like dry wood breaking. Zevral took a shaky step forward. The prisoner's chest did not rise. Did not fall dead. The human lowered his gaze. Solaris whispered. He never moved. He never touched him. The recording device beeped, then went dark. The lights in the room flickered twice and died. In the darkness, Captain Zevral felt something he had never felt before. Helpless. A backup light flickered to life. It was pale and weak. Zevral's hand shook as he lifted his wrist device again. Call the high command, he rasped. Tell them the test is complete. Solaris swallowed. And what do we tell them about the results? Zevral looked at the human. He was sitting quietly, as if nothing had happened, as if he were bored. Tell them, Zevral said slowly, that the legends are true. He turned to the 2 guards. By the door. Their faces were white with fear. Seal this chamber, he ordered. Nobody enters. Nobody leaves. It's not without my command. The guards bowed quickly and stepped outside. Zevral stared one last time at the silent figure in the chair. The human did not move. did not speak. But Captain Zevral felt sure of one thing. This was not the end. It was only the beginning.